So the first thing I'm gonna have to start with probably is to retract some information from my last video. It seems that the app, the inbreeding app from Decode Genetics actually has that functionality. So I've never seen that, I've never logged into the app actually myself. So it seems that rumor is actually based on reality. So you can go into the app, you can bump phones with somebody else, and you'll get information on whether or not that person is actually too related to you. So what I'm gonna follow up with today is something that's gonna make me sound perhaps a bit negative. I don't mean it that way, I mean it to be helpful, definitely. But there are a few things that I notice with tourists in Iceland that I think they could be doing differently or could be giving some thought to. So here are my 5, probably. Don't do items while traveling in Iceland. So for the first one, let me start off with a little bit of background. 10 to 15 years back probably, there wasn't a lot of tourism in Iceland. I mean, nobody really came here and it's been growing very fast. Prior to that, the only people you could see were probably bearded German geology students trying to hike the highlands before beards were cool. Anyway, so it's been growing a lot, and Iceland is well, strange in many ways, but one of the things that sets us apart is the fact that we are one of the least densely populated countries in the world. We are very remote. I mean, we're on an island in the middle of the Atlantic, and this means that everything is expensive here. It's not just consumer products or food, those kind of things. It's our infrastructure as well, because we have compared to more densely populated countries, we have fewer people actually paying for roads and those kind of things. To sustain that base level of social services, we need to each person pay more. So this brings me to budget travelers. I have nothing against budget travelers, nobody does. I mean, it's fine. Travel to Iceland, you wanna try to travel as cheaply as possible, that's actually commendable. It's going to be expensive still, but try to utilize some of the infrastructure. I mean, there are hitchhikers, it's fun to pick up a hitchhiker now and then, but there are bus services running around, and we're actually all paying for the infrastructure of these bus services. So when you're here, participate in that and just pay the bus fare. I mean, Keflavik Airport to downtown Reykjavik is like, I don't know, it's like 20 euros or something. But you're not doing it every day, are you? So participate, please. It's not just that, it's not just the bus services, it's other things as well, and that was supposed to be my topic or point number something 2 or something else, which is campsites. So a lot of people rent these RVs or these recreational vehicles, these camper vans, and they travel and drive around the country. Again, fantastic. But you see a lot of these camper vans just parking out in residential cul-de-sacs, outside of schools in parking lots, just at the side of the road on the highway somewhere. It's not cool, and they're doing it mostly because they don't want to pay the fees in the campsites. So again, like you would do in any, I'm loath to say other civilized country because we're Iceland after all. So in any civilized country, you would actually pay for the campsite. Let's do it here as well, okay? We'd appreciate it. And on a side note, actually, talking about campsites and people camping all over the place. It's not just the RVs; it's just people putting up tents, all over. There was a problem a couple of years back with just a lot of people, naturally needing to do their business, and farmers are along the ring road and other commonly traveled roads in Iceland were just complaining about people, you know, doing their stuff just all over the place. So it really didn't reflect well on visitors to Iceland. Another thing to mention, you've seen these, they're not around here, and I couldn't actually be bothered to hike somewhere outside of town to find them, but you'll see these cairns, these kind of stone piles, and these are old markers. Many of them are old, they have tradition and history, and they were used obviously as way markers for people to cross over the highlands and you know, along these long footpaths back in the day. And to a degree they still serve the same purpose. If you speak to an Icelandic park ranger, they'll tell you they actually still have a role in the security infrastructure of those kind of pathways in the highlands. So please try to refrain from building your own. It's something that tourists in Iceland seem to be keen on doing. Happens all the time, and I know park rangers spend a lot of time on actually knocking these things back down. So people camp somewhere, and you know, they have a nice time in the evening, pop open a couple of beers that they bought in an overpriced Icelandic liquor store, and they make these stone piles, these small cairns. And in emergency situations, those could actually become a security hazard. They could you know, misdirect lost travelers off the track in foggy situations, for instance. So again, park rangers have been talking about this as actually a big nuisance. So let's refrain from building our own cairns. Let's just maybe add a small stone to the existing ones. I hope I'm not suggesting anything forbidden here, but let's just enjoy what's already there. Okay. Let me see. There must be more topics. I had something written down here. Dum, dum. Dum, 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 dum. Oh yes, respect the moss. I'm actually just in Kópavogur, part of the Reykjavík area right now. But if you travel the wilderness, you'll see this grayish green moss all over the place. And this stuff takes a long time to grow. It's extremely sensitive to traffic, foot traffic, and as well as, of course, off-road vehicle traffic, which I want to point out is something you should definitely refrain from doing. You may have off-road vehicles, you may rent, you know, those kind of cars, but do not take them off-road anywhere. But the moss, let's respect the moss. Let's keep it in place. I mean, it takes, again, a long time to grow, and it's fundamental to binding the soil and reducing just erosion of the Icelandic landscape. So respect the moss. I'm not talking about Kate Moss, although you should of course respect her as well. Yeah. I mentioned driving off-road, which gets me thinking about driving in general. Keep in mind, if you plan to drive in Iceland, that we have conditions that may differ from elsewhere. Make sure to actually read up on conditions, expect to go into situations where you're not familiar with what will happen. You'll have narrow roads, you'll have gravel roads, you'll have changing weather conditions. For many people from the Western world and the more, you know, densely populated world, you'll have conditions that you're very unused to. And even to some tourists, I mean, I live in Keflavik, which is the town just by the airport, and I work in Reykjavík, or the Reykjavík area. So I drive the highway back and forth every day. And the amount of strange things I see on the road, rental cars doing these, you know, strange exercises on the road. I mean, it's understandable when you start driving a rental for the first time. You need, you know, a couple of minutes to get kind of acquainted with the car. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people just swerving from one lane to another, cutting in front of you, people just pulling off of the side of the road immediately because they have to capture a photo of the first lava field they saw. Believe me, there will be a lot of lava fields for you to actually shoot photos and videos of. People seem to even not know how to drive on roundabouts. It works pretty similarly to most other locations in the world where we actually have lane separators. So let's respect the lanes. Also respect the lanes when you have double roads. So drive on the right, overtake on the left, those kind of things. And yeah, don't drive off-road. Respect the moss, remember? The weather today is actually quite nice. It's about 11 degrees Celsius, which is something like, what, 50 Fahrenheit? That's pretty good because it's September the 12th. And we've had a decently cold summer, so this is just a nice, mild kind of fall at the moment. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It can be helpful to learn those basic words like tack for thank you, góðan dag for hello or good morning, good afternoon. It's the same thing for morning and afternoon, it just means good day. Everybody will speak English to a degree, but it helps, you know, when traveling in general. You win a few extra points, so it'll make for a more pleasurable experience for you, I do believe. So tack, if you want to say thank you, it's like the English word attack, like you're attacking someone, just without the short A at the beginning. It's just tack, or like a thumbtack, or yeah, thumbtack probably is closest to it. Tack. And finally, my last point, and I'm gonna head back to the car, drive home. Somebody needs to do the cooking. Don't put padlocks on railings, on bridges and those kind of things. I know it's something that people do at some places, in some parts of the world, but these things aren't, you know, they're not going anywhere. They're not holding any secrets. You don't need to lock them in place. I mean, it just looks, you know, messy. So don't leave your padlocks on railings. Okay. That was a lot of things in a foreign language in just one shot, so let's see how it turns out.